Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the TCT podcast here on YouTube. My name is Cale Fleming, and alongside me, as always, my two hosts, Gavin Campbell and Tyson Snyder. Tyson, what's going on today?
Oh, not much. What about you?
Oh, the same thing. Living the dream here to talk some sports. Gav, what's up?
Same here, man. Just getting ready.
Right on. On today's rundown, we got the Fighting Illini taking on Maryland out there in Maryland. At 2:30 Central Time?
Believe so.
After that, we're going to talk about the NFL. Tyson's going to give us a little bit of preview for Central Illinois high school playoffs. And yes, we are talking about playoffs.
Playoffs?
After that, we're going to talk a little bit about NBA basketball. I'm going to give you my 3 stars of the week. It's very goaltending based. We don't talk about tendies much. And after that, we're going to talk about this 4-game sweep that Boston's about to hand to the LA Dodgers. So, Gav, we're taking on Maryland this week. You're pretty optimistic that we can beat them out there. Illinois is 3-4, Maryland's 4-3. Coming off of that, I won't say terrible loss. We had a lot of things we need to improve on still against Wisconsin, but they're also ranked. We did put up 20, which is more than we put up on Purdue, who took down Ohio State. So you're pretty optimistic on Illinois beating them. Tell me why.
Absolutely. Maryland, I understand that in week 1 they took down a ranked Texas team who since then has been undefeated, as Tyson just so elegantly let me know. But Maryland, I think that they've had a couple bad losses since beating Texas. I thought the loss to Temple really hurt their resume, as well as getting destroyed by Michigan, even though everyone gets destroyed by Michigan. We saw that Illinois at least put up a fight against Penn State, who was, I believe, ranked number 9 in the nation at the time. So it shows Illinois has some fight in them, and MJ Rivers, let's not forget, was in that game. And as we know, MJ Rivers will be starting against Maryland, benching A.J. Bush in favor. So I think that ultimately gives them a better chance to win. Before the show started, I was raving about our running backs. I really like Reggie Corman and Mike Epstein and Rayvon Bonner. Forgot his name for a second. But I'm looking at the comparisons here. Obviously, the quarterback numbers don't match up because Rivers hasn't played as much as the other quarterback, Hill, for Maryland. And Johnson, I don't think that he's more capable of running on this Illinois defense, although they've been very lackluster and sometimes outright terrible this season. Reggie Corbin should have a field day, and as long as we can probably put the ball in his hands, as well as Mike Epstein and Rayvon Bonner 70% of the time, we should come out with a win.
Tyson, before I turn it over to you, I want to talk about something real quick, and that's called points allowed per game. Illinois has let up 34 points per game on average this season. Maryland's only let up 23.3. So that's going to have to change. To play a Maryland team who's not near as strong as Wisconsin, and honestly, I agree with you on some aspects, they're not near as strong as Purdue either. Purdue is a little bit better of a team, and we saw that last week. But this secondary, our front four, everybody's going to have to pitch in. They got to start pitching in because Lovey's obviously only going to bring that 4-man pass rush. So I don't know. It's just going to have to be a variety of things on this defense. Offense I'm fine with because we have 3 studs running the ball. Rivers can throw a lot better. I don't know. Defense is just going to come down to this game and see what's going to happen, in my opinion. We're going to have to allow a minimum of 20 points in this game.
That points allowed stat, I feel, is a little skewed. I'm not too worried about it because in the last 4 games we played Penn State, who put up 63. We played Purdue, who put up 46. We played Wisconsin, who put up 49. So that definitely skewed that result a little bit in the favor of raising our points per game allowed. Now Maryland, they've played a couple tough opponents too and have won against Texas. They lost against some other ones. But that's why theirs is low, just because they've played well. They haven't played as many tough opponents, but they've played well. But in our games against lesser competition, like the Marylands of the world, we competed, especially with MJ Rivers in the game. So I'm not too worried about it yet. I'm not going to get my hopes up because we did this against Purdue.
Yep.
And thought everything was going to go just smoothly with our 13% chance to win this game, and it really didn't. Now, Purdue, like you said, was a much better team at the time, have lost their 3 games by a combined 8 points, and have been undefeated since then. But Maryland is not that team. Maryland's lost 3 of their last 5, only wins coming against Rutgers and Minnesota.
That's good news because I have full confidence. We beat Rutgers already for our first Big Ten win in over 700 days. Minnesota does not look the way they thought they were going to.
1-6.
It's 1-3
and 4.
3 and 4 right now.
So that being said, I have full confidence that Illinois can win. The only thing I'm leery of is that point spread that we talked about earlier. Illinois plus 17.5 on an over and under of 52.5. That just makes me a little nervous. But I don't know. I feel like Illinois can probably just turn it around this week. So I'm going to take Illinois in this game.
Oh, I am too. I'm right there with you. I definitely think after the performance that we had last week against the Wisconsin team that is still ranked, they are still in the top 20, I believe, after that win.
23rd?
Or did they fall?
I think they're 20. Wisconsin, are they still 23rd?
They are close.
I figured they would have moved up a little bit.
They're still ranked. They're still ranked, obviously.
All right, fair enough. But anyway.
They're 20th.
So they moved up. Because they were 23rd last
Okay,
week.
so that's what I thought. I thought they were in the top 20 as of right now. So there we go. We got that squared away. What concerns me the most about Maryland is that they were shut out by an Iowa team that has let up an average of 32 points per game in the last 4 games that they've played. So until shutting out Maryland, which is very concerning to me. Iowa, although they are a ranked team, very potent offensively. Why Maryland wasn't able to at least get 3 points up on the board in this game is beyond me. So I think that is very good for the Fighting Illini in this game. And with MJ Rivers in the backfield, no reason why we shouldn't put on a show.
Absolutely. So let's move on to our second topic here. We're going to keep it with football. We're going to move on to the NFL. Tyson, I'm going to start off with this. Big news this week. What happened Tuesday, I believe? No, it happened Monday.
Something like that.
Yeah, it happened Monday. Amari Cooper traded from the Oakland Raiders to your Dallas Cowboys for a first-round pick. Before we get into how it's going to affect the Cowboys the rest of their season, I want to talk about what the heck is Gruden doing down there? Because he's stocking up on first-rounders.
I really got no idea. I figured he inherited a pretty good team. He just needed to add a couple pieces and they're competitive. Instead, he's doing a fire sale, getting rid of everything. I think he really just wants his own team, and I think he's rebuilding from the ground up. He's given up on the season. He knows they're not going to win more than 3 more games, and I really do think he's just trying to stock up and sell while it's hot, while he can get stuff for his players. That's the only thing I can think is he really just wants his own team.
Gav?
Well, there's a great point. Just let me add to it real quick. What I can't understand is why he's not shopping Derek Carr right now. I understand that he's still semi-young. He's in his mid-20s, but he's only had one good season his entire career. Let's not forget about that. And then the MVP season that he did have.
Really good season.
Yeah, but his MVP season, caliber season that he was going to have, he got hurt in the last couple weeks of the season with that broken leg, and he hasn't really looked the same since then. Granted, the team really hasn't looked good since then, so it's been a collective effort and looking bad on the Raiders' part. What Gruden's doing, like Tyson said, I have no idea either. If he wants his own team, this is obviously the best way to do it. He's already got 3 first-round picks for next year's draft, but as we know, if we look back in history, the Oakland Raiders have not done a very good job in drafting, especially in the first round. The only 2 Pro Bowlers coming in their last 14 picks being Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack, which are both now not with the team.
And coincidentally, Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper both have the same agent, and now they're both gone. So I just thought that was kind of interesting as well. Tyson, how's this going to affect Dallas the rest of the way?
Like I said, we touched on it briefly on Monday, but this is nothing but good for the Cowboys. Like I said, it gives them a huge 6'4", 220-pound distraction for other teams to look at, which does nothing but free up Cole Beasley and let Michael Gallup fly down the sideline one-on-one. So I love this pick. I've been saying for the last 4 or 5 years, we need to draft a wide receiver in the first round. I thought we're going to take Amari Cooper when he was in the draft 3 years ago. So giving up a first-round pick for him, we're now giving up that first-round pick that we should have for a wide receiver that's already been proven as a dominant wide receiver when he can play. The only issue is he's got some injury issues, but I don't see that being a long-term effect moving forward. But this does nothing but help out the other receivers in Dak.
So I want to touch on this. I'm glad you mentioned Cole Beasley. On Instagram, I believe it was the Cowboys. These are the Cowboys or the NFL. Made a post about the big 3 with Dak, Zeke, and now Amari Cooper. Mm-hmm. How do you think Cole Beasley felt about that? Because he's kind of been, along with Zeke and Dak, taking these guys to victory in their how many games? They've won 4 games, 3 games this season. 4. So he's been a big help this year, obviously. How do you think that affects his mentality?
Well, and he's the only Cowboy with over 20 receptions and a 100-yard game. So yes and no. I think he should take a little bit of offense to that, but then again, he can't take that much because the receiving core and Dak have literally just been awful this year.
Yep.
We've had one 100-yard game by a receiver. Dak's thrown for over 200 yards twice or 3 times. It really just hasn't looked pretty. So I don't think it's a shot at Cole Beasley. I think it's more of a shot at the entire team, and I really don't even see it as a shot. I think it's just trying to hype up this new trade, this new toy that they have to play with. But I hope Cole Beasley does take a little offense to it and gets a fire kind of lit under him. Now, he was doing great, but it just isn't good enough. And I think he'll understand that this helps him be better.
Well, and another thing is, I don't understand why the sport of football needs to have this new big three concept all of a sudden. This isn't the NBA. So you don't have 5 guys on the floor. You don't have a 13-man roster. You have 50-something plus guys plus the practice squad. Everyone is a part of an NFL team, right? So why it needs to be boiled down to 3 guys, 3 players is beyond me. I think Cole should take, like Tyson said, a little bit of offense to this, but he also doesn't have an all-pro selection on his resume like Amari Cooper does when the Raiders went 10-6 and made the playoffs. Playoffs? But no, I don't see it as a big deal. Like Tyson said, this is probably just a marketing ploy for the Cowboys.
Tyson, you guys don't play Sunday, but you play Monday night at home against the Tennessee Titans and Marcus Mariota. How you feeling about that?
Monday night next week, right?
Monday night next week, 11-5,
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, you're okay. Tennessee has not been very good so far this year, and that's good for us because we haven't been very good so far this year. But Marcus Mariota, he had a game last week or a couple weeks ago. He was 10 for 20 for like 73 yards for the entire game. No touchdowns, 1 pick, I think. Mariota just hasn't looked like himself. He hasn't looked all that great. There's just not a whole lot going right in Tennessee right now, and that really helps us out, especially in prime time. And I believe it's an away game at Tennessee, you said. So, yeah, we need all the help we can get on the road so far this year, so I'm looking forward to that.
We're going to move on before we get into Tyson's game of the week. Gavin, our Chicago Bears are taking on the New York Jets at Soldier Field. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, can we get a win,
yes,
please? It's been 3 weeks, and I feel like me and Cale have been waiting a while after starting the season 3-1. My biggest takeaway, and I think you and me talked about this before the show, is Khalil Mack. He's not healthy. He's not 100%. He either needs to be on the field and say he's 100% and act like it, play like it, or he needs to be on the sideline. He needs to take a seat, rest up, and get that ankle, foot, whatever injury he has going on, he needs to get that squared away. I think this defense going up against New York and Sam Darnold, he's a rookie quarterback coming to Chicago. It's going to be cold. It's always hard to play at Soldier Field. You can ask Green Bay. You can ask Minnesota, Detroit. You can even ask Tom Brady. The Bears put up a fight last week against them, put up 31 points on old Tommy.
Only lost by a touchdown, so go Bears.
Absolutely. Came 1 yard short of playing for overtime, which I still believe the Bears would have won in overtime, but that's just me. Moving on. I just don't think the Jets have enough to come out with a win. I think Mitchell Trubisky these past 3 weeks has really proven himself to be the quarterback of the future with all the question marks that were surrounding him after the first 2-3 weeks of the season. The team, they just look good. They look good. They look comfortable. They've been in both of the games that they've lost, and I just expect a win.
We have something to finally be excited about because I rode Mitchell Trubisky pretty hard last season and at the beginning of this year, but the last 3 weeks I've completely changed my mind. Mitchell Trubisky, I agree with you, is probably going to be our quarterback for the future. I'm really growing on, or he's really growing on me, I should say that. But I want to move on to Khalil Mack. Like I said earlier, I want your opinion on this. Khalil Mack should be either playing 100% like he does as a pass rusher. I know he can play both ways in both positions. I get that. But Khalil Mack is a much more effective pass rusher than anything else.
Best one in the game.
So, personally, I want to see Khalil Mack either on the field 100% or, like you said, resting these 2 weeks against the Jets and the Bills so that way he can get 100%. Thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with you 100%. There's, like I said, like you said, there's no reason he should be on the football field if he's not 100%. I know last week he was taking partial series. He was coming in for a couple plays, going out for a couple plays. That's not effective. It takes the other guys out of their groove. I understand mixing sets is something that every team does in the NFL, but when you have your superstar player coming in and out, It's just not something that I want to see. I think if you have the best pass rusher in football, he needs to be out there every single play, every single series, every single game. If he's not healthy, he needs to rest and make sure he's healthy for when we play Detroit the following week after Buffalo.
Tyson, how are you feeling about Chicago's chances this week?
I think they're looking good. They're going against a mediocre rookie quarterback in Sam Darnold with just over a 50% completion rate and 10 touchdowns and 10 picks. So we see his decision-making still a little spotty, kind of like Mitch was last year, but we've seen the drastic improvement there. Mitch has 13 touchdowns and 6 picks on the season. So even in the losses, we've seen him throw 2-3 touchdowns the last couple of weeks. And that's really what I wanted to see. We talked on a couple weeks ago is even no matter how they play, Mitch needs to throw 2 or 3 touchdowns. Give him a chance. So these losses aren't on him anymore. It's not solely surrounding the quarterback. This is his fault they lost this game, or this is his fault they won this game. It's now he's doing his part and the team is winning. But with the pass rush that they've got going, the Bears do, I think they've got an incredible chance against the Jets this week going up against Sam Darnold. Isaiah Crowell, their lead running back right now, has been meh the last couple weeks. I can say that comfortably because he's been on my fantasy team, and I started him over Jordan Howard last week, so that's unfortunate.
Let's also not forget that Powell, their backup, is out for the year now.
Right. Yeah, Bilal Powell, he did something to his leg. I can't remember what he did. Yeah, but he's out, so it's all on Crowell now. Who's never really been a 3-down back in the league any year of his career. He's jumped around a lot, hasn't really had to carry that load. Their receiving core is spotty to say the best. But yeah, I think Chicago has a great chance this week. I think they've got a couple picks in their future, 6 sacks. This could be a very turnaround game, show you what that defense is about like the first couple weeks of the season.
So I want to move on to a new segment we're going into here, Tyson's matchup of the week. Tyson, you picked the Saints at 5-1, taking on the Vikings at home in Minnesota at 4-2-1. Why'd you pick this game this week?
This was the most intriguing game to me. We got Saints-Vikings in Minnesota, rematch of the NFC champion, or not the NFC championship last year, but the NFC
divisional
round last year. Where we had the miracle in Minneapolis with Stephon Diggs catching that pass down the sideline and Sean Lattimore missing.
To say the least.
Right. And Joe Buck absolutely ruining the moment, but that's another story for a different day.
But this game, very intriguing to me, just having that rematch. The Saints coming in at 5-1, the Vikings at 4-2-1, so we can see there's still 2 of the top teams in the NFC duking it out again in Minnesota to take any advantage away from the Saints like it was last year. They're up in Minnesota again. I really hope this game is incredibly exciting. But this was my matchup this week just because it's very intriguing. And my other options were games like Cardinals and 49ers or the 7-0 Rams versus the 3-2 Packers. Browns Steelers, I guess, could have been interesting. But this is the only game that had any kind of weight behind it, I felt, this week.
For sure. So we're going to keep on the topic of football here unless, Gavin, you got anything to add on that game.
No, I think he's absolutely right. I think the divisional rematch of the divisional round last year in the playoffs is obviously the most intriguing one, but the one for us is the Chicago Bears, and that's every week. But if I had to pick another game, I see Minneapolis twice a year, every year. They're always an interesting team. I'm really big on Kirk Cousins. I know Tyson not as much, but no, this should be a very good game. I expect Drew Brees to test the Vikings defense, and they've started to turn it around the last few weeks, so it should be very, very intriguing.
For sure. So, speaking of playoffs, we're going to get into some Central Illinois high school playoffs starting, tomorrow, correct?
Tonight.
Tonight, all right, for sure. So
some of them start tonight, some of them play tomorrow.
Tyson's got a 1 through 8A class ranking here. He's got one game from each class, and he's going to run through them and let us know what's going on.
That is correct. Yeah, so we missed the pick'ems a couple weeks ago, so we're going to continue on. We've got one game that I picked out from every class this week. Our 1A game is going to be number 1 Argenta Oriana 9-0 versus number 16 Cerro Gordo be met at 5-4. That is in the Northern Division. I figured we'd start with an easy one. Who you guys picking? Because I'm picking Argenta. They've looked dominant in every game this year.
I'm taking Argenta too. I mean, there's just not much question. High school playoffs in either football, basketball, soccer, or anything, you got a 1 seed going against a 16. The 16 seed's chances aren't so hot.
Yeah, this isn't the NCAA, so
yes,
there's not going to be any upsets. I expect Argenta to take this one easy.
I just hope it's a close game.
So for the 2A game, I have a lot to talk about. We're going to come back and kind of talk through 1 through 8A real quick after we get done with the picks, but I figured we'd put the picks out there first real quick. 2A game, we've got number 13 Oakwood at 5-4 going against number 4 Pana at 8-1. This game was very intriguing to me just because Oakwood is around here, obviously, and we've seen them win some really, really good games, put up a lot of points in a lot of games, and then we've seen them lose some really bad games. Pana at 8-1, I feel like that's self-explanatory. Who you guys taking?
I'm taking Oakwood.
I'm taking Pana.
I'm going to take Oakwood against Pana just for the sheer fact that, like you said, they've lost some tough ones. They've lost some really bad ones. Oakwood, though, they've put together strong football teams in the past. They're obviously made it in the playoffs. That 5-4 record, I'm not necessarily going to focus too much on that. So, that being said, I'm going to take Oakwood.
That is why I included this game, because I saw the upset factor as well, a 13 beating the 4 here. I'm going to take Oakwood as well. I think they can pull it together in these big type situations and pull something out. So I'm taking Oakwood as well.
Yeah, I got to stick with Pana just for the one loss.
Yeah.
I mean, 8 wins is 8 wins,
Yeah,
and
that's
I don't
insane.
really know much about them. But 2A football, like you guys said, I mean, I know Oakwood. We talked about it a couple times during the past couple months, but no, I'm sticking with my pick.
All right, at 3A, this game I picked because we've got number 11 Wilmington at 6-3 going against number 6 Monmouth at 7-2. Wilmington is the team that absolutely destroyed us in the playoffs the year that my team went to the playoffs. So I picked this game out because like I said, we're going to come back and talk about PBL and whatnot. But Wilmington 6-3 against Monmouth at 7-2. I believe these two are in the same division.
Yes.
In the same conference. So that makes it a little interesting. Or if they're not in the same conference, they're definitely up by the same area. But I'm going to pick Wilmington in this one as well. This is a playoff team. Wilmington almost never misses the playoffs, and they almost never leave in the first round.
Well, Wilmington has won how many championships in the last 5 years? Or 10 years?
I want to
4,
say,
5?
yeah, at least a couple. They won in 2015, the year we graduated.
Yep.
So, yeah, they're just an outstanding team. So I'm taking Wilmington in this one. I know what they're about.
I'm taking Wilmington too, just for the sheer fact that they always get here. They're always tough. 6-3 is a down year for them.
And I believe they started 0-3, and they won out.
So that tells you right there.
So it took them a little bit to find form, but they found it.
Wilmington in that 3A class is nuts. I'm taking Wilmington.
Again, 3A, we're not quite there to what I'm used to in high school football, but I do have a couple buddies that attend Monmouth College or University, and I'm going to have to take Monmouth in this one just because I got some connections there. So go Monmouth.
I have a feeling Gavin's making a hell of a comeback on us this week in the overall score.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the 4A game, we had number 11 PC sitting at 7-2, Prairie Central, against number 6 Murfreesboro at 7-2 as well. Murfreesboro is the home team; they are the higher seed. Couple more playoff points. They beat a couple tougher opponents by some bigger scores. So who we taking in this one, fellas?
Prairie Central. I'm taking the underdog again. Prairie Central has completely won me over this season. I like what they're doing. Murfreesboro, on the other hand, has also won a few titles in the last couple of years, so you can't count them out either. I just like Prairie Central's chances.
I know that you just touched on it. We doubted Prairie Central more than a couple times this year when we've talked about them. I don't know what's pulling me towards this. I don't know if it's I just found out about Murfreesboro high school football, but from what I've been reading up on them, I got to take them in this matchup. They've won me over. I've looked at both schedules, like Tyson said. They beat a couple slightly more difficult opponents this year.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and take them in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to take Murfreesboro in this one as well. I picked PC because it's basically the only matchup in 4A that's kind of close to home. So I'm going to take Murfreesboro in this one as well. I think PC's had an outstanding year, took us all by surprise. But you can see it in their ranking. against another 7-2 team is the 6th seed as opposed to the 11th seed. They're not even one of the best 7-2 seeds. They're probably closer to a 6-3, 5-4, just based on the points. Even though they've had a great season, I'm still taking Murfreesboro. Murfreesboro's just had a little bit better one. At 5-A, we've got number 12 Central going up against number 5 Carbondale. Definitely wanted to touch on Champaign Central coming out having a great year this year, 6-3. Carbondale has looked slightly better at 7-2. Gavin, give me your thoughts. I know you played at least one of these teams.
Yeah, Central is, like you said, shout out for their season. I don't think any of us saw them winning at least 6 games this year. Maybe Cale did. I know I didn't, but congratulations to Champaign Central. Carbondale, this is another team I had to do some research on. I thought Central has had a couple really nice wins, and then I go and look up Carbondale's schedule, and they have a couple great wins this season. So when I put them up against each other, especially with Carbondale getting home field advantage, sometimes Central has struggled away. They've lost a couple close ones on the road. That's what did it for me, so I'm taking Carbondale in this matchup.
I'm taking Carbondale as well. Central can let me down at times, honestly, even though I do want to give them a shout-out in their remarkable season as well. I didn't know they were going to be a playoff team, but I figured they were going to be better than what they were last year. So, yeah, I'm going to take Carbondale in this one.
Yep. I think this is our first uniform pick here besides Argento over Cerro Gordo. I think Carbondale is going to win this one pretty easy. That's not a shot at Central. That's strictly what Carbondale can do. They're just an outstanding team. And Central hasn't, like you said, hasn't always looked great away from home. So we're all going to take Carbondale on that one. 6A, we've got number 13, Peoria Notre Dame, against number 4, Normal West. Two of the teams that were close to home in the 6A division playing each other. Cale, I know we're pretty big on Peoria Notre Dame. They're a Notre Dame team. They're always good. It doesn't matter where at in the state they are. And then we've got Normal West, who was 8-1 on the year. Has looked outstanding and dominant in every game they've played. Gavin, give us your thoughts again. I know this one's a little bit closer for you as well. A couple teams that you've possibly played against. I don't know about Notre Dame, but definitely Normal West.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Peoria Notre Dame came into the conference the year after I graduated, so I wasn't around for that. But Normal West, yes. We've seen this team many times, all the Bloomington squads. Normal West is a team that only lost to I believe, the more superior Bloomington team, and that's Bloomington. The Normal Community Ironmen, and it was I don't want to say it was close, but they put up a fight. They put up 27 points on that defense, which was very hard to do back in week 2 of the season. Peoria Notre Dame 6-3, very good football team playing in the Big 12, but I have to go with Normal West in this game.
I do too. Normal West. I know what Peoria Notre Dame can do. They're good. They're a good squad, but I just like Normal Community in this matchup more.
Yep, agreed. I think Normal West is going to take it to them in this game, no questions. Moving on, Gavin, you just touched on them. Normal Community sitting at 8-1 as well. The 11th seed. Fun fact: 7 and 8A rank 1 through 32 instead of North and South because they're mainly all Chicago schools. But they rank 1 through 32 instead of 1 through 16 on North and South. So the 11th seed is Normal Community at 8-1. That is insane. There's that many good teams, and they are going against number 22, St. Charles North, sitting at 6-3. So, once again, I'm taking the Normal School, Normal Community. I think they can go, or they're at home playing against St. Charles North, who is 6-3 on the season. I think they can take it to them. I think these Normal and Bloomington teams are going to have a great weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. Normal Community, this was my favorite team going into the playoffs this year. I think the Ironmen have a chance to make it very deep in the playoffs and potentially make it to state and ultimately win it, even though at the 11th seed, their only loss coming to Bloomington, the Purple Raiders. This is a team that, for whatever reason, they've always struggled against, and it's usually a toss-up or a coin flip and who takes home the Tri-State or the Tri-City trophy, whatever you want to call it, between Normal West, Normal Community, and Bloomington. It just so happens that this year they all kind of beat each other in that triangle, and that usually is how it plays out. But Normal Community, I'm taking them in this game. It really shouldn't even be close. That's how good I think this team is. I expect them to score 40+, and that defense should show up.
Go Normal Community.
All right, we started with an easy one. We're going to end with an easy one here for the pick'ems. We got St. Charles East, the 31 seed at 5-4, going up against the number 2 seed of Lincoln Way East, sitting at 9-0 in the 8A division. We'll get into why I picked this game. Besides, it's the only team that I might have recognized in the 8A division. But I'm going Lincoln Way East, easy. We'll get into a little bit more of this here in a minute. But, guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I second that. Lincoln Way. No discussion needed for this. Second seed in the 8A division. Should be an easy win.
Taking Lincoln Way East, 9-0. You got a 2 seed going against the 31. There's not much more you need to say.
Okay, so now, before we move on to the next topic, I'm sorry, guys, I might take a minute, so cut me off if I'm going long.
Take your time.
Take your time.
But we're going to restart at the 1A division and kind of work our way down. Just a couple more of the interesting games, or just things that I found that I thought were interesting. So starting at 1A, we've got the number 6 Arcola squad going against number 11 Salt Fork. So I thought it was very interesting. A couple more of the teams right around here that we know that we've touched on several weeks in a row going against each other. I think that's going to be a barn burner of a game. Very interesting. Both of these teams have capabilities to score a lot, and their defenses are very strong. And then the other game I wanted to touch on was Lena Winslow against Lewistown. Lena is the 4 seed this year. They actually won the state championship at the 1A division last year. And they're going against the 13 seed in Lewistown. So the path's looking all right so far. They're sitting at 8-1 on the season, I believe. Guys, any thoughts?
Not really. I agree with you on everything you said 100%.
There's nothing else to add. Man. You pretty much hit the nail on the head with everything.
Our Arcola game's going to be
That's going to be a
intense.
fun game to watch.
Okay, moving on to... Oh, in 1A, there's also 3 9-0 teams in the north, 1 9-0 team in the south.
Oh.
Wow.
So Lena is actually on the northern side of that bracket, I believe, and they are not one of the 9-0 teams. So I think a repeat for Lena Winslow is going to be a tough road. But moving on to 2A, there are 4 9-0 teams in the north and 2 9-0 teams in the south. Meaning that GCMS against Watseka. Gavin, how do you think your boys in Watseka are going to compete against GCMS this week?
I'm hoping they can put up at least double digits in this game.
Yep. It's hopefully close because I would love to see Gibson City lose. I just really don't think it's going to happen. But that being said, Gibson City is one of the 4 9-0 teams in the north. They have a very tough road to get back to a championship run this year. The other interesting thing I saw was Maroa is the 2 seed on the south this year. If you weren't familiar, Gibson City beat Maroa in the state championship game last year. We've also got Tuscola in this bracket, who is the 1A runner-up from last year. So we've got 3 state championship contenders in this 2A bracket this year. Makes it very interesting. St. Teresa, Warrensburg, Tuscola, Maroa, and Bismarck-Henning, who is also 8-1, are all in the Southern Division. That is a very, very tough road for any one of those teams around here to make it back to the championship. But very, very interesting potential matchup between GCMS and Maroa in the state championship this year. Have a little revenge.
Some bad blood there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on, 3A. There is 1 9-0 team in the north, 4 9-0 teams in the south. This is what was interesting to me, was that statistic right there. PBL is 99% of the time a northern squad. The line is usually drawn around Interstate 72 or 74, one of the two. We almost never are on the same side as Monticello, as Farmington. Those are always Southern teams. We are always a Northern team. This year is the 1% of the time that we are a Southern school, with 4 9-0 teams on the same side as the PBL, and 1 9-0 squad on the North, which would have been a much easier path. There's a little bit less competition on the Northern side this year, but it just so happens that there's more. So the interesting matchup I saw this week in the 3A division, St. Joe against Monticello.
Well, with how St. Joe has played and them being hot and cold throughout the season, I guess it could be interesting.
I don't think it's going to be interesting. I think Monticello is absolutely going to run away with this, especially because Monticello is one of those bubble schools that usually ends up in 4A instead of 3A. But this year,
with as good as they are, they should be.
Right. This year they are in the 3A division, and I have a feeling they're going to make a hell of a run towards a championship. First, smoking St. Joe on their way. But PBL, I wanted to point out, has the most playoff points. They are the highest ranked 6-3 team. That's why they are going against number 7 Vandalia at 7-2. They have the most playoff points out of all the 6-3 teams. They have more playoff points than a lot of the 7-2 teams. They don't have as many wins. So if they would have beaten Dwight last week and not lost 27-7 for no reason, they would have been a 7-2 team. They would have been about a 4 seed if I had my math all figured out. But that was just one thing I wanted to point out. All these good squads on the southern side this year. The only other thing in 3A I had to touch on was Pleasant Plains is the 3A runner-up going against number 5 Beardstown. So Pleasant Plains, I believe, dropped off a little bit this year. Yeah, they are now a 12 seed in 3A, even though they got second place last year. So they had a little bit of a drop-off here going against a tough 8-1 Beardstown squad.
This is one question I have for you. I don't know how in-depth you looked at this. How you mentioned PBL had a tough road to even make it to the semifinals, right? So if you had them, what's the earliest possibility they would have to play a 9-0 squad?
I think it's very possible they beat this Vandalia squad this week. I've got the bracket pulled up. Hang on. But I believe the earliest they could play a 9-0 squad is next week, if I remember correctly.
Wow, so they're paired up right next to...
Yep, so if they beat Vandalia this week, the game that they are playing the winner of is 9-0 Carlinville against 6-3 Wood River, East Alton. So they'll be playing Carlinville, one of the 9-0 squads, which I don't know a whole lot about Carlinville, but I can't imagine there's a whole lot going wrong up there if they're sitting at 9-0. So that would be the earliest they could play one. After that, they would play Fairfield 9-0 or Williamsville 8-1, who should be 9-0. Williamsville destroyed Wilmington this year. Williamsville has looked just outstanding. I can't believe they lost a game. They did lose a game, I believe, is to one of the 5A squads, though. So regardless, even if they win this game, they're playing a 9-0 squad in Carlinville. And if they beat Carlinville by any chance, they're playing a 9-0 squad in Fairfield or an 8-1 squad in Williamsville, who are playing Newton and DuQuoin, so I don't suspect much coming out of there. And if they win that, they're probably still playing another 9-0 squad in Monticello or Farmington or 8-1 Beardstown. There's so much good competition on the southern side of this bracket. It's unreal. But moving on, we'll go on to 4A. The most interesting thing I saw in the 4A division this year was IC Catholic. Elmhurst IC Catholic won the 3A division title last year. They are the 3A champions. They have moved to 4A this year. So I found that a little interesting. Rochester was the 4A champion. Is going against number 13 Breeze. Rochester and IC Catholic Elmhurst are on opposite sides of the bracket this year. So Elmhurst is the number 1 seed in the 4A division. Rochester is a 4 seed. Both coming off championship runs in 3 and 4A respectively. So I think, again, another very interesting potential matchup for a championship game this year. IC Catholic against Rochester. Rochester wins the 4A division every year, if not every other year. They're absolutely insane. So I think it could be a heck of a matchup there. But moving on, we'll go on to 5A here. 1 9-0 squad in the north, 2 9-0s in the south. The only thing I really cared about in 5A this year, besides we touched on Central and who they were playing, was Mascoutah Mattoon. It's the only other one that was kind of close to home. They will be playing in Mattoon. Both squads sitting at 6-3. Should be a pretty good game. We saw both teams kind of beat up on Mahomet a little bit. So,
well, Mahomet had dropped a lot of close games this year too.
Right. But that should be a good one. 6A, we have the 5A winner in Chicago Phillips this year, going against the number 13 Lake Forest squad sitting at 5-4. I thought it was interesting. Again, we've got another champion moving up a bracket. Another interesting matchup in 6A, we have Bloomington going against Crete. We've also got Sacred Heart Griffin, another one kind of close, sitting down in Springfield going against Quincy. We've got a Washington squad we've talked about a lot so far this year going against New Lenox. I believe Washington was the number 2 or the number 1 overall in the South. Yeah, that sounds right. Prairie Ridge another one of the Chicago schools, Crystal Lake. There it is, Crystal Lake Prairie Ridge. They are going up against Hinsdale, number 12. Prairie Ridge was the 6A champ from last year. So, once again, we've got 2 champions in this bracket. Caneland, we talked about a couple weeks ago when they played Morris. Caneland is an 8 seed in the 6A bracket, even though they're ranked top 30 in the state. And then Dunlap was the last interesting game I saw. They are a 9 seed in the 6A division. They finished runner-up last year in 6A. Or they finished runner-up in the 5A division. So, once again, we've got a lot of champions and runner-ups in this division. Should be pretty good.
Should lead to some new title holders
Yep.
upcoming in a few weeks.
Moving on, we've got 7A, 3 teams in the North and South. Like I said, they don't split this North and South, but if they did, it would be that way. Last year, Batavia won the 7A division. Lake Zurich placed second. They got the runner-up. Lake Zurich didn't make the playoffs this year. But Batavia claimed the 4 seed in the 7A division, so I highlighted their game against number 29 Granite City. We've also got 5 and 4. We've got LaGrange Park, the runner-up in 6A, going against number 25 Tinley Park at 6 and 3. So another matchup there. Another runner-up has a pretty easy path so far, but we'll see. And moving on to 8A to finish this up. The game I really wanted to highlight. That's why I picked Lincoln Way East. Lincoln Way for our pick'em game. Lincoln Way East was the winner of the 8A division last year. They beat number 2 Wilmette Loyola Academy. Wilmette has claimed a 19 seed this year, whereas Lincoln Way East has the 2 seed overall. So going from 1 to 2 starting the playoffs this year, Lincoln Way East has a much, much easier path than Wilmette, who finished runner-up last year, has got a 19 seed. So I highlighted their game there. Number 19 Wilmette is playing number 14 Manuka, sitting at 7 and 3. Should be a very, very good game. I would like to point out Wilmette Loyola Academy. They have got second place 2 years in a row in the state championships. Before that, they won. Before that, they missed the playoff, or they didn't miss the playoffs, but they didn't finish in the top 2. And then they won, and then they got second place. Since 2012, they have got first or second in every playoffs except for 1.
Wow.
I figured that was worth pointing out.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a stat.
That's a hell of a run by
Yes,
a really
it
good
is.
squad. The fact that they've got a 19 seed is amazing.
That should be prone for an upset somewhere,
Yeah,
if not
that-
multiple.
That's
Yeah.
kind of why I wanted to highlight that one, because I think they've got a couple upsets on their road coming.
Right.
Sorry to this 7 and 3 Manuka squad, but it's not looking great for you. But that was really all I had. A lot of the things I just found interesting. Sorry that went on a little bit too long there, fellas.
you're
But
good.
yeah,
No.
I had a lot that I just needed to kind of talk about. I saw a lot of things going on in the playoff brackets this year.
With
Playoffs.
with so many teams making it in the first round,
32
There's
for
always-
8A. Yeah.
there's always stuff to talk about. Now, after this weekend, that's when it gets more interesting because
yeah.
we see who upset who moved on that was supposed to get done what they were supposed to get done, and that's really when it starts. This is just the beginning, and when we get closer to the semifinals, when we get close to state,
Which is in Champaign this year.
yep, is it at Memorial Stadium?
Yep.
There we go. Well, shit.
It alternates between back and forth from DeKalb and Champaign.
Well, we'll definitely be attending whoever makes that game.
Yeah, it's only $10.
But yeah, with that said, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun time. But now that we have football wrapped up, we need to move on to basketball. The NBA, Oklahoma City Thunder. Cale, I know you're a big Russell Westbrook fan. What's going on in OKC? They're starting off the season 0-4, dropping a 14-point lead last night, to the Boston Celtics that moved into 2-2.
Celtics are good, but they have been struggling, like you said. But the OKC Thunder, I had them picked pretty high to go in, at least make it to the playoffs.
Well, as did I think everyone.
Can I go ahead and change that pick, though, to somebody else? Just for the sheer fact that
I don't think I picked them very high, did I?
No.
I think you had them in the playoffs, but I don't think you had them at like the
7,
5 or 6,
yeah,
something
like that.
Starting 0-4 in the West, no bueno.
No bueno.
They're in a big hole that they're going to have to dig out of somehow, so I'm not sure how they're going to do it. They're just going to have to figure it out. Russell Westbrook's going to have to start dropping triple-doubles every night like he did last year.
This is what was really intriguing to me was last night he was 2 rebounds or 2 assists shy of a triple-double, and they still lost by, I think, 7 points.
See, that's the thing. With this OKC team, it don't matter how much he does. It proves that he needs help around him. I know he's got Paul George, but, if he's going to go out here for a triple-double every night, and I also get the premise, too, that in the last 4 minutes of the game, Westbrook has to realize that he ain't the only one out there. So that being said, they're going to have to figure some stuff out there in OKC. Where they messed up was offering James Harden $4 million or whatever that was. So I'm going to date that clear back to 4 years ago?
Yeah,
so
they're not going to get that back either.
That's where their problem started right there.
Yeah, so I don't know what Sam Presti's going to do, but Tyson, what do you think about OKC starting the season winless in the first week?
Well, and I'm glad you touched on that, Cale, that Russell Westbrook needs to realize he's not the only player on the field. He shot the ball 20 times last night, made 5 shots. Not a great completion percentage there, field goal percentage. And that's just last night. I'm sure in the other games he shot at least 20 times in all the other 3 as well. But you're right. He does need to realize he's not the only one out there. He's not the only one that can score. So yes, he needs help around him, but it's hard to ask for help when you shoot the ball this much. Kobe shot the ball that much, but he never asked for help. He did it himself. He made it work.
He didn't have to ask for help.
Right. It was there. I agree. It's a different scenario. The Lakers were a little bit better with Kobe. But, it's not looking good for OKC. If they don't turn things around quickly, it's going to end really poorly. The Bulls have more wins than the Thunder right now, and that's scary.
Zach LaVine is going
fans.
off.
I'm glad you brought up the Bulls. Did you guys see Bobby Portis is going to miss several weeks?
Yes, having
that really hurts Chicago.
Meniscus,
really
I believe,
yeah.
having surgery. That's not good for the Bulls, but what is good for the Bulls is Zach LaVine.
Yes.
And like I said a few moments ago, this guy is playing out of his mind. A fun statistic for you. The first 4 games of the season, the only 2 Chicago Bulls to drop 30-plus points in their first 4 games of the season is one Zach LaVine and Michael Jordan. So that tells you what kind of season Zach LaVine is on pace for.
LaVine and Jordan?
No, not at all.
I'm just games of 32, 34, 33, and 30 points so far. He's been playing out of his mind.
And that's the point I was trying to allude to, is that he is playing extremely well with a supporting cast that right now, especially after losing Portis, is lackluster. And I understand.
MVP.
I understand that Markkanen and Dunn and all these guys, they're really good players. But I just don't think the Bulls are going to have enough to get it done. But speaking of Eastern Conference, another team that is struggling to get it done is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are without Kevin Love as of a couple nights ago, losing to the Detroit Pistons. He was out with a foot injury. It is unknown how long he will be out for, although he should be back within the next week. The Cavs 0-5. This is a team that I thought could be a 7 or 8 seed even without LeBron James. And they're losing to teams like the Pistons, who, granted, are 4-0 as of right now. Very hot. Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond playing out of their mind. I don't think it's sustainable, but we'll talk about that later. They've lost
it's doing good for my fantasy team.
They've lost to the Brooklyn Nets, a team that doesn't really have a star piece other than D'Angelo Russell, who's up and coming.
132-112.
And that as well. I just want to know what is so bad about Cleveland when they lose LeBron James. I can't put it together.
I mean, okay, so you can't deny this. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, the 2 best players we have seen in our generation, in our lifetimes. That being said, Cleveland has lost one of the best players of our generation in our lifetimes. That says it right there. And 2, J.R. Smith, or J.R. Swish, rather.
Thank you.
He sat out the other night with a DNP coach's decision. So that doesn't help either. Kevin Love being out, J.R. Swish, DNP coach's decision. What else do they have? Colin Sexton and Tristan Thompson?
It's Larry Nance and Jordan Clarkson. That's not going to get the job done.
Larry Nance is out too. He's hurt because I got him on my fantasy team.
Oh, well, there it is.
There it is. I don't know. Cleveland's going to have a rough go. I'm glad Cleveland fans got to enjoy it while they did.
Enjoy that title.
It's going to be a long road. Just like the Bulls are going to deal with.
Yeah, it's one of the most intriguing things to me is LeBron James leaves, and now you turn into one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, which I knew they would be worse.
Some bottom feeders in that East.
You would think Kevin Love would step in and take over his role he had in Minnesota and just be that guy. He's only 31 years old.
I know.
So you would expect him to play better than he is right now, being in his prime, but injuries upon injuries will probably end up derailing his career at some point. Still one of my favorite players. Hope he gets healthy soon. One last thing we need to touch on here, boys. The Houston Rockets have made one of the most outlandish trades I've ever seen in my lifetime. They have offered 4 first-round picks, Brandon Knight and Marquise Chris, for 1 Jimmy Butler.
Can I talk about this first?
Please.
Okay, so this tells me right now how bad the Houston Rockets need Jimmy Butler. Not only want him, need him. That being said, they're going to go as far as to offer 4 first-round picks. And then what in the hell is Minnesota doing not jumping all over this? That'll give them 4 first-round picks. I'm so confused. But Houston, if the Wolves decide to bite on this, the Timberwolves, it's going to fare well for Houston. I can tell you that right now because I know Melo, he's going to mellow. He's going to shoot 15 threes. He's going to make about 1 of them. James Harden's last year he's the MVP. Jimmy Butler coming off of that, adding that to the rotation along with Trevor Ariza and then Clint Capella down low. That would be
that's who they're trying to replace is Ariza because he's in Phoenix.
That's right, my bad, Ariza. Sorry, they're trying to replace Ariza, but they get him, who's honestly Jimmy Butler's better than Trevor Ariza in my opinion because he can play defense and all that. He can give you 20 points a game.
Well, let's not also forget that they lost Ariza to Phoenix, and they also lost Luka Mbamute to the LA Clippers. So their perimeter defense is completely gone.
That's why they need Jimmy Butler, and that's why they offered 4 first-round picks for him. And for the Timberwolves not to accept this, I don't understand it. Get that headache out of that locker room. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know why they haven't jumped all over this. Very similar to a lot of the trades we've seen in football, not in recent years, but in the past. The first one that came to my mind was Herschel Walker going from the Cowboys to the Vikings. The Cowboys got 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, a third-round pick, and a 6th-round pick for Herschel Walker. And they turned that around, drafted Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Primetime. After that, they won 3 Super Bowls. The rest is history. We've seen that. The fact that they're not jumping over four first-round picks is insane. There's a lot you can do with that kind of talent. You have a lot of control in that. I can't believe Houston hasn't jumped. I can't believe Houston offered it. And 2, I can't believe that the Timberwolves haven't accepted it. It's absolutely nuts to me.
Especially in basketball. We see in the NFL you get 7 rounds worth of picks. In the NBA, there's only 2. And you're getting 4 first-round picks. Like you guys said, I still can't believe they haven't accepted this.
You got guys like Zion Williamson, too, in this draft coming up next year.
That's big.
I know you got Cat, but you could add Zion Williamson to that mix. Whew, that's insane for Minnesota not to accept
Zion
this.
Williamson is the most LeBron-esque player we have seen in a long time.
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
Basically since LeBron's been in the league, and this kid was born about when LeBron went in the league.
Hang on before we move on.
Go ahead.
You've got Zion Williamson. I'm going to talk about this real quick. Zion Williamson is about the same build and body type as LeBron James.
6'8", 285 pounds. He's 5 pounds heavier than any other player in the league.
But he can run the floor like a guard.
Like LeBron does.
It's the most insane.
At 6'8".
It's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And the fact that Minnesota could have that next year, I don't get it.
He's one of the main ball handlers on that Duke squad this year. At
6'8",
285.
Well,
and he's built like a brick shit house.
Well, let's just be clear. They would have to tank the season in order for that to happen.
Tank it.
That's and getting rid of Jimmy Butler. They're still going to try to. That's what I don't understand about the Wolves' mentality. Is if you get rid of Jimmy Butler, are you still going to try to make the push for the playoffs with Wiggins and Towns? Because before he was there, let's not forget that this was a sub-30 win team.
Yep.
And they were awful.
And when they get rid of him, they'll be right back there. We've seen their win percentage without him last year.
10 and 13.
It's not great.
When he's off 4.
So, yeah, it's very possible. They wouldn't even have to tank. They just have to play like themselves.
And let's not forget about my boy, Romeo Langford from Indiana. That will be a top 5 pick, I guarantee.
How about your other boy with the Pacers, Aaron Holiday?
Yeah, I wish he would get more minutes. Me and Cale talked about this off air.
You know how many points he's given me this week in fantasy?
0.52.
Yes.
0. Yeah, it hasn't been great. I saw that. That's why I kind of touched on it. But yeah, it needs a few more minutes for sure.
I know this is Gav's thing, but going off of that, the Pacers, why he's not playing, although I just got an update about 30 seconds ago that Tyreek Evans is not going to play Saturday because he showed up late to practice. So here's his opportunity. That's the reason why he's not playing. It's because Tyreek Evans is coming off that bench and doing better than what Holiday can do, in my opinion.
Well, and let's not forget they already have two other point guards on the roster besides Oladipo, who can handle the ball, and Darren Collison and Corey Joseph.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I understand it's a guard-heavy team, but I just think he's watching him at UCLA. He's too good not to get minutes.
Yep.
I don't know what they're going to do, whether they can play Collison and Oladipo and play Joseph and Holiday at the same time, because he can shoot the lights out from the three-point line. We saw it in college, 43% from behind the arc, as unheard of. Go ahead.
No, I'm just waiting for you to wrap.
Oh no, that's it.
I just wanted to get your opinion on Philly. I just want your opinion on them. What's going on?
The role players, they've underestimated how important role players are for a team, because they think that they can win with a 6'10" point guard that's a hell of a passer that can't shoot a lick outside of 8 feet, and a center that thinks he's the best in the league when, yeah, he's probably top 5, but he's not better than Anthony Davis. So, I mean, he thinks he's it. He is the guy, and there's no disrespect to Embiid. He's hella talented, but he thinks he's like the best three-point shooter in the world. He's 7'1". Ben Simmons, he needs to be able to get a jump shot. He shoots just fine in practice when there's nobody guarding him, but as soon as you put a hand in his face, he hits the back of the rim like there's no tomorrow. I think losing Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova really hurt this team.
Getting rid of that veteran leadership, I feel like they're just all kind of lost right now. And that's why they're sitting at 2-3. They just can't pull themselves together long enough to make it work.
They don't have enough shooters. Like you said, Rocco's not shooting like he should be this year. Last year, I think, could be an anomaly. It's yet to be seen. It's only been 4 games. But J.J. Redick can't do it alone. He can't be the only one. Wilson Chandler's way out of his prime. He's not going to be able to keep up the three-pointers that they need. And I just don't think they have enough. Still a playoff team, but they don't have enough.
I just really like that Philly team, which is surprising for me because I don't like Philly sports, but I love Ben Simmons, and I don't know why. I just love that guy to death because when he gets to the rim, he's getting there with authority, and he's a 6'10" point guard.
Yeah, he definitely catches your eye. He's an attention grabber, and he's potentially a great player. Still shouldn't have won Rookie of the Year over Donovan Mitchell.
He shouldn't.
No,
but
that's fake-ass rookie.
But, man, that's really all I have for it, man.
I have one thing I wanted to just mention before we moved on.
Sure.
The Eastern Division has 3 undefeated teams right now. Toronto, Milwaukee, and Detroit. Three teams unbeaten so far. The Western Conference has 1. New Orleans at 3-0. They haven't even played 4 or 5 games like most teams in the league.
Yeah, can we just mention that Golden State got beat by my Denver Nuggets? I'm taking ownership of that team now.
Both of those teams sitting at 4-1, incredible looking so far. But the Eastern Conference is looking, I don't know about better so far this year, but the top of it is looking better than the top of the West. Which is a little weird.
Boston still hasn't found their groove yet.
Well, that's the thing. They're 2-2 right now. And Kyrie looks shaky after coming off his 2 surgeries. Hayward still doesn't look completely like himself yet, but Jason Tatum is taking off.
Yep.
And he looks great.
And Rozier.
Yes, Scary Terry. One other thing that I want to talk about now that you brought that up, I think you see more losses in the West because you see how competitive it is.
Right. That was the other thing that I kind of wanted to mention. One, it looks better in the East because you've got more undefeated teams, but the West,
it's so
see
top
the
heavy.
competition.
So top heavy in the East. But all right, let's go ahead and move on. Cale, I know we got to talk about the NHL and your top 3 stars of this week.
All right, so I got 2 tendies and 1 position player. I'm going to start off with the position player. He's my number 1 star of the week. First star, all honors this week. If you did not get to see Sid the Kid Crosby's or Sidney Crosby's incredible Sidney Crosby backhand classic, go check that out on YouTube. Check out the highlight of that. I'm going to break that play down real quick for you. So as I was explaining to Gavin, you have a triangle when somebody's going on a breakaway such as Crosby. He was 1-on-3.
This is in overtime.
Yes.
That's why it's a triangle. That's why there's only 3 defenders out there.
It's in overtime. So you have a well, they do this too, not in overtime when you have a breakaway typically.
Right.
So even if you have 5 guys out on the ice at the same time, Crosby was on the breakaway. You had your 2 defenders coming back on the peel to go help your goaltender out. That being said, you have your forward, but it's usually a center. So your forward in this situation, because it's 3-on-3 on overtime, is falling back to go get Crosby. Crosby takes it to that corner that he likes to go to, that he can go on that backhand, and he peels that forward out with him to open up that triangle. And that's when he just flips that thing right over his shoulder, right behind him, just clinks the crossbar and drops it straight in. So that's my number 1 star of the week. That play is absolutely remarkable. He does it all the time. And that's his first goal of the season, too. And they also went on to win later that week 9-1 over Calgary, which is kind of impressive, but it is still Calgary. I want to move on to some tendies, though. My 3rd star of the week is Robbie Luongo from the Florida Panthers. He had a pretty remarkable week this week. Actually, so remarkable that he moved into 4th all time in wins as a goalie.
I was going to say, how old is that guy?
Robert Luongo's been in the league longer than we've been alive, the three of us in this room. So he's getting competition with Marty Brodeur, who's also was in the league forever. He has over 74,000 minutes of ice time. Then he's got Patrick Roy, Ed Belfour, and then obviously Robbie Luongo, and then Curtis Joseph. So congrats to Robbie. He's been in the league. He's got 55.
Canadians, Batman.
Yeah, the top 7 are all Canadians. You got number 8 at Henrik Lundqvist, who is Swedish,
King.
and then you have 9 through 13 all Canadians.
Real quick, let me give a shout out to my buddy John. I know he's a big Florida Panthers fan. Congratulations on I believe the first win of the season, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah, so congratulations to him, and I know he's a big fan of their goalie, so congratulations to Robbie and John. I know it's been tough the past few years watching the Panthers, but a win is a win.
Second star this week, I'm going to give it to Marc-Andre Fleury, another Tendy, Vegas. I love Marc-Andre Fleury. He's quiet on the ice, but I'm a big Barstool Sports guy. If you listen to Spit and Chicklets on that on his episode where he's featured on there, he's a funny dude. He's a big prankster. I want to give a shout out to him because he moved from 11th to 10th. He passed Glenn Hall. That's pretty big. That's a pretty big name right there. So he's now 10th all time. So we've had 2 active tendies now move into the top 10. Robbie Luongo was 5th. He passed Curtis Joseph on Tuesday night, and Marc-Andre passed Glenn Hall on Thursday. So shout out to these 2 goalies who've been in the league for a long time.
Well, Lundqvist is still active too, right?
Henrik Lundqvist is still
right,
active.
and he's sitting at number 8.
Ryan Miller's still active, and then Cam Ward, who's 26. I don't know how he's active, along with Pekka Rinne, 28th, and Jonathan Quick, 37th. Craig
Not
Anderson's
bad.
49th, but he is now a backup. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to those guys. Tendy Week, I'm going to call it here. Tell them Tendy Friday.
Love chicken tendies.
2 top 10 goalies.
All right, for sure. All right, with the NHL wrapped up there, Cale's 3 stars, we need to talk about the last topic of the week, and that's, of course, the MLB with the World Series heading to Los Angeles.
Sweet.
The Boston Red Sox are currently leading the Dodgers 2-0
Get out the brooms.
in the series, and Cale is desperately calling for a sweep of the Dodgers after watching Kershaw mop up another whatever performance you want to call that. It wasn't good. either
Playoff
way.
Clayton Kershaw.
Yep.
There you go. So let's go ahead. Give me your guys' opinions on games 1 and 2 of the World Series.
Clayton Kershaw's terrible. Chris Sale got rocked in Game 1. You can't deny that fact, but he also wasn't 100%. Chris Sale was still dominant with 12 strikeouts. I understand that, but he did not look like typical Chris Sale, and I'm blaming that because he was in the hospital with a belly button infection from his belly button ring, of all things, but he's not 100%. Clayton Kershaw is doing what Clayton Kershaw does in the playoffs. He's going to come out here and throw 55 pitches in the first inning, give up 2 runs, and get shell-shocked the rest of the game, come out in the third. Bullpen's going to blow it. I want to talk about something real quick, though. The Red Sox are now in a little bit of a controversy with Dodgers shortstop Manny Machado busting signs when he's on second base. People deal with that all the time. It's just a bigger deal because it's Machado, who's kind of the Tom Wilson of MLB. That being said, I wanted to throw that out there. Also, for the Boston Red Sox tonight, they play at 7:09 in LA, Game 3 in LA. Andrew Benintendi is not starting. They're putting in Martinez for him. And then also there was one more. I can't remember what that was, but I just wanted to throw out there that Manny Machado situation. We saw that play with him on Aguilar in the CS, excuse me. Manny Machado is kind of dirty. We all know that, but he's still a good ball player. It's just that I wish he wasn't so dirty.
Yeah, my thoughts for the first 2 games, it went exactly as we thought it would. Boston beat LA. It wasn't always pretty, but they made it work, which is what they've done all year. It wasn't always pretty, but they made it work, and they made it work to 108 wins. Tonight's matchup, we've got Walker Buehler for the Dodgers, sitting at 8-5 on the season, going against Rick Porcello, sitting at 17-7. So Rick Porcello got a lot more finished games, a lot more wins. The difference is Walker Buehler has a 2.6 ERA, and Rick Porcello, I believe, was 4.2.
Big difference there.
Right. So ERA difference is a little bit shaky for Porcello, but he's got a lot more wins. Dude knows how to pitch. So good pitching matchup tonight. I think Boston takes another one, but I think it'll be close again. I think they'll just find a way to make it work.
This is going to be a lot closer than what it was. Let me rephrase that. They've all been close, both games. This is going to be a very good game for the Dodgers to win because Walker Ferris Bueller is pitching for them tonight. If you've never seen that movie, go ahead and watch it. It's a classic. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. just in case you didn't know. But no, Walker Buehler this season has been remarkable. He's replaced Rich Hill very well, who was their second ace, I'm going to call him, with the Dodgers when the Cubs beat them in 2016. That being said, this is the game for LA. They're 175-point favorites tonight, and they also have home field advantage with, honestly, the guy who should have started Game 1 of the World Series, in my opinion.
One other thing I want to touch on is David Price. What did you guys think about his performance?
David Price, remarkable. Although he did look shaky again. David Price has kind of looked shaky since the All-Star break. He got out, got it done. That's what he needed to do. He needed that playoff win, and he got it. So that being said, David Price, congrats to you. I think that may be his second or third all-time playoff win, maybe even first. But I think it's his second, I want to say. I'll have to fact check.
I know after the game he was talking to the media, and he was pretty confident in shutting them up.
Big relief. And he needed that because he's faced a lot of criticism the last 3 weeks in that media.
He went 6 innings and only threw 88 pitches. That's a lot of strikes and a lot of outs really quickly. So he had a great game.
The only reason why he got yanked is because he had a guy on second base. And as shaky as Price has been, Alex Carrera over there, he's got to get him out of there. He can't give up runs to the LA Dodgers.
All right, one last thing before we finish up here. I know Cale called for the sweep. Tyson, I know you and me called for a gentleman's sweep, 4-1 of the Dodgers. Would you like to change your pick?
I'm going to stick with it. I think the Dodgers will pull out one. I don't want to say that. I just think it'll happen. I'll still give them 4-1. I think LA finds a way to manage one at home.
All right,
pull out the brooms.
I'm also going to stick with my pick. Cale, the only one calling for the sweep of the Dodgers. Like you said, 7:09 tonight, Central Time, Game 3.
7:09 Eastern.
Eastern.
Yes.
So 6:09 Central Time.
Yes.
Okay, so there we go.
Yes. What time it is here in
yes.
America.
Okay.
It is 7:09 Central Time.
Central Time. So there we go. Scratch
we got
everything.
something to watch
7:09 Central Time tonight. Game 3 of the World Series in Los Angeles. That's going to go ahead and wrap it up for us here today. If you like what you heard, make sure to leave a like, comment, rating, subscribe, whatever you want to do down there in the box below. And after you hit that red subscribe button, make sure to hit that bell icon to the right of it so you never miss a beat. Also, don't forget to follow us on our social media page at sports_twin. With that said, my name is Gavin Campbell. That was Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming, and we will see you guys next time.
Peace.
Based upon the view, you can't have too much trouble, so why can't we do it? Everybody's doing it. Let's start the fireworks, stand back and enjoy it. Oh, oh. Bombs